Good afternoon. Can you hear me through both these? I'm supposed to speak through both microphones. It's a pleasure to be with you this afternoon, and it's always a pleasure to come to your campus. I think you're some of the luckiest students in the state because you have some of the best instructors here at Leeward Community College. Really do an outstanding job. They're professional in every way and are well respected in the industry. The White Culinary Foundation's goal and mission is bringing programs to each and every one of you, and those programs may be classes like the one we're having today, or they may be guest chefs who come in from all parts of the United States and even from Japan and Mexico to teach these classes. We have a very dedicated board who works very hard to raise funds to put together programming for all of you, and our whole mission is that the cuisine in Hawaii and the level of expertise in Hawaii will just continue to improve and will become like some of the outstanding chefs that we have who present these programs. So they believe in all of you, and I hope that you'll be at one time one of these guest presenters like our guest today. Our guest chef today, Michelle Karr-Ueoka, is an outstanding professional in every way. It's been my pleasure to become acquainted with Michelle through the past few years, and she is not only an outstanding professional and chef, but she's humble, gracious, and has a tremendous work ethic. I'll give you a little bit of her background. She is born and raised here in Honolulu, and she has degrees in the travel industry management program from the University of Hawaii. But that wasn't enough. She went on then to the Culinary Institute of America in New York and earned her culinary credentials there. She's a graduate, and she has worked at some of the most amazing restaurants in the country, Daniel and Union Pacific in New York, the French Laundry in California, Per Se in New York, with some of the most outstanding chefs who are working in the business. And then her externship at Alan Wong's restaurant right here in Honolulu really brought her passion to the fore for the pastry industry and for pastry, becoming a pastry chef. And so she worked at Alan Wong's for 14 years, and and I'll let her share with you all the many responsibilities that she had there as well as pastry. And in 2012, she was awarded Hawaii's Rising Star Chef Award, award that was most justly deserved because she certainly is a rising star that's being recognized, not just here in Hawaii, but really around the country. Currently, I think one of the most exciting things that's happened here in Hawaii in a very long time is a restaurant that she's opened with her husband, Wade, and it's called MW for their initials, Michelle and Wade. And it certainly has set fire around the culinary community with people talking about this restaurant and enjoying the food there. I've had the pleasure of dining there, and it's exceptional. You have the menu in front of you, and I'm sure she's going to share with you what it's like to open a restaurant. And it's hard to believe, but having only had the restaurant open 3 months, she's made time in her very busy schedule to be here with all of you because she believes very passionately in educating. So with the busy restaurant operation, we're very grateful and very humbled that Michelle's with us today.
Thank you so much.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here today. When Haley asked me to do this, hands down, I was like, I'll be there. Whatever you need, anything for the students. About 17 years ago, I got into cooking by an opportunity that Chef Alan Wong gave to me. At that time, I was at University of Hawaii, in the Travel Industry Management program. And I was still deciding what I really wanted to do. I enjoyed hotels, I enjoyed restaurants. But what I really enjoyed doing was cooking. And so I went to him for an externship opportunity. And at that time, he didn't have a culinary extern. And at that time, he didn't really have an externship program. I was probably one of his first externs ever. And so he asked me, he goes, what do you really want to do in life? What is your dream? And I said, to be a chef. And so he goes, okay. And then so we kind of sat and we talked, and I said, I'll do whatever it takes to work my way into the kitchen. I'll do dishes. I'll scrub toilets. I'll do whatever, And he said, I like your attitude. And so the first day I went to work, actually, sorry, let me back up. He asked me if I knew how to cook. I told him not really. I said I cook cookies and brownies with my grandma at Christmas time. And I said, that's about it. But I always enjoyed reading about cooking. I just never really did it because I was on the UH golf team at the same time. So I really didn't have enough time. And so he said, okay. So he thought I was just being humble and that I kind of did know how to cook, but I didn't want to say that I did. So the first day I went to his restaurant, he asked me to boil him water and cook him some broccoli. So I figured, how hard can this be? I've seen my mom do it. I've seen my grandma do it. So I went, I turned on the stove. It didn't go on. And I looked at Chef, I looked at Lance, and I said, the stove doesn't go on. When I'm at home, I turn on the stove, it gets red. And he goes, oh, this is a gas stove. The pilot's not on. And I'm like, oh, don't know what a pilot light is. And he's like, okay, well, that's fine. You are telling me the truth. And I said, yep, I told you I don't know how to cook. So he always laughs because, at that time, I didn't even know how to turn on the stove. So, if I can do it, anyone can. I always tell people when they come into our restaurant, I was like, if you know how to turn on the stove, you have way more experience than I did because I couldn't even do that. And I stayed there for about a year. And then we sat down again and he asked me, he goes, what do you really want to do? Is this what you want to do? And I said, yes. He goes, go and get a solid foundation. And so I went away to CIA. And actually, right before I left, after getting accepted, he said, the most critical thing you're going to learn at CIA, or what you're going to remember always, is where you do your externship. Think about what you want after your externship and plan accordingly. So work backwards and think of all the steps that you have to do to get to where you want to go. So I said, I really want to go to the French Laundry. That's my dream. So I got to school. It was my first day of school. And externship isn't probably for 9 months. You spend 9 months learning all the fundamentals of cooking. But I sent a letter to Chef Keller because that's how much I wanted it. And I said, Chef Keller, I would like to be an extern at your school. At your restaurant. And I sent him a toothbrush. And I said, this isn't a letter from your dentist. It's a letter from me to show my desire and dedication to do whatever it takes to work my way into the kitchen, even if I have to scrub toilets for 12, 16 hours a day with a toothbrush just to see what you do at your restaurant. 2 days later, he wrote me a letter back. He goes, I'll see you in 9 months. I saved that letter. That was the best thing that happened to me, in the sense of making a dream a reality. If you dream it, I always believe that you can achieve it. I spent some time there, and I came back and I worked with Chef Allen in 2000. At that time, I didn't know I really wanted to be a pastry chef. I stayed on the savory side of the line for 7 years. And at that time, Mark Okamura was the pastry chef. He mentored me. I went away to Per Se, spent some time at Per Se with Richard Capizzi, who was the chef there. And now he's at Lincoln. And he really made me decide that pastry is what I really wanted to do. So I came back and I told Chef, I said, I really want to do pastry. And so that's what kind of got me into it. But I will never forget the 7 years that I spent in savory, because at the same time, it helped influence the desserts that I make today, as well as give me the discipline in the kitchen for knife cuts, and how to cook, how to saute. Because when you travel sometimes with Chef Wong, you have to know how to do it, in the sense of if he needs you to help him plate the fish course or cook the fish course, you have to be able to jump right in. So always take advantage of your time at wherever you are. And it's always important to understand the basics. And then so basically last year, Wade and I opened up our restaurant in October. What he and I learned that we've known for a while that it's not always about cooking. If I had a dream and just cook all day, that would be awesome. But running a restaurant is a little bit different. As you get higher up, it's a little bit less about the cooking, but also about managing people and training the next generation. And that's what Wade and I strongly believe in helping to educate our staff, understanding what their goals and their dreams are, and helping them to live it. And that's about creating a legacy. My dad always says, make sure that you help people just the way that people helped you, because it's all about giving back. So when Wade and I opened up our restaurant, we learned that a chef wears many hats nowadays, that you only just can't cook. Opening a restaurant, we had to understand the whole legal aspect of opening a restaurant, understand the construction of opening a restaurant. When we opened this restaurant, who wants to open up a restaurant? Raise your hands. Okay. When we opened up this restaurant, we were given a budget. And my dad is a retired CFO, so I told Wade that he has to be right on his costs, that there's no such thing as going a penny over budget. And he's like, no, your dad would let me go a penny over budget. Wade went over budget by $15,000 the first time for the kitchen. My dad called him up, he goes, you're over budget by $15,000. He brought down the budget, just to give you an idea of what it costs to open up a restaurant, okay? We're located at the old KGMB by Ala Moana. It's about a 3,000 square foot restaurant, and 1,500 square feet is what our kitchen is. Okay, it's kind of a big kitchen. When you think about from the accounting side, seats is what makes money. People in seats make money. The kitchen doesn't make money because no one sits in the kitchen. So, as my dad said, we have to make sure that we have 82 seats. When we first drew the diagram, it came in 80. He made Wade go back and cut a little bit square footage off of his kitchen because he needed 82 seats. That's how critical it was, because it came to how much money we can do per seat. Okay, so we had the opportunity to work with Kelsey, who helped us design our kitchen. Having won the Rising Star Chef Award, Wade and I, we had a great opportunity from Jade, who helped put the equipment into our restaurant. So they gave us a really good price. And that's how things kind of started. So you have to know what you want. So Wade came and asked me, he's like, what do you want in your pastry department? What is important to you? I said, a good oven. So we got a Rationale oven, which is a combi style oven. As soon as Wade learned that you can sous vide in this oven, I kind of lost half the oven already. He learned that he can make roast duck in the oven and that he can use it as a dehydrator. I really lost half my oven. He's dehydrating everything in the restaurant right now in that oven. But the possibilities are endless. But at the same time, we have to think how we can make money with that oven. Because to just give you an idea, that oven, it holds 6 racks. So I can only do 6 sheet trays at a time, of whether it be cookies or cakes or whatever. To put in that oven, it cost us $50,000. My brother almost had a heart attack when he got the estimate for the oven. Okay, so, but that was important to me. I told Wade I would cater and do cookies, and this holiday season, I think the oven was paid for by our cookie sales. I almost teased Wade, I said I should go in the cookie business because that's all I did. I would scoop 5,000 cookies a day. And I'm like, Wade's like, what do you have to do today? Scoop 5,000 cookies. He's like, I mean, I had the whole team scooping cookies. It was crazy. But that's just to give you an idea. So for us to build our kitchen, it cost, and this was at a really kind of affordable price. It cost us probably $330,000. To build our whole restaurant, it cost us $700,000. So with the chairs and everything, and it got to the point where to save costs, we were putting in the tiles ourselves. We were painting the walls. I mean, my brother learned how to speckle walls and everything. It was pretty funny. If you saw us, 1 week before we were open, we had no windows on our whole building. We had to postpone the date by a month. We had 40 people on staff that we had to pay, and we weren't even open. But we still had to pay them because we felt it was important. We didn't want them to go without income. So my brother and I sat down and we said, you know what, we're gonna pay these people because they already quit their job. And it is our responsibility that we thought we would open, but it was construction. And it's Hawaii, so you never know what's gonna happen. We were fortunate because actually the restaurant next to us, Fa Saigon, was supposed to open up 2 years ago. So we feel fortunate that we only opened up 1 month late. Okay, so in that whole span of things, we learned insurance costs. We learned the legal aspect of the employer's council, of employee rights. We learned everything, even how to write a contract for a lease and everything. Those are some of the things that Wade and I had to get to know. So it's always important, you know, when you're in school, study hard, because you never know when those things will come into play. Okay, so we opened in October. We just made 3 months today, so we're very excited. Now is kind of the time where Wade's kind of cross-training a lot of people. Part of what we went through during the holiday season and the grand opening was just the intensity of service. It was just get it to the guests and make people happy. People always ask what Wade and I want out of the restaurant, and honestly, it's just to make people happy. We have 2 types of guests. One is our employees, and one is the actual guests who dine at the restaurant. And our priority is to make people happy, and that's what we live by. So that's a little bit about opening up a restaurant. Anyone has any questions about opening a restaurant? Okay. Yes.
What resources were you looking into just finding information on when you were first planning and finding out like financial aspects that you didn't really know about? What
Well,
resources did you tap into?
a lot of, one huge resource for Wade and I was when we worked at Alan Wong's, chef emphasized to his management team that part of being a chef is to know the business behind the business. So when you become a manager there, you're expected to fall within food cost. You're expected to know what the cost of goods are, which is your electricity, your rent, your insurance, your benefits, all of that. So that was a really good resource for us. Some of the other resources was back in college, I double majored in TIM and business. So that was another resource too. But by surrounding ourselves with people who knew more than us, we could scratch the surface a little bit, but they were experts in their field. So my brother actually works for a law firm. So he took care of all the legal contracts. That was good. That saved us, saved us a lot of money. My dad is a retired CFO from First Hawaiian Bank. So he would analyze all the, the costs that we had. And we actually outsourced our human resources. We hired a company called HIHR to help deal with all of that, because we knew that they would be better than us. They would teach us a little bit, but they would take care of all the paperwork. Because what my brother didn't want is that Wade and I just do paperwork all day and we didn't cook. And so that, by tapping into those resources, it helps. Also, when you're on an externship, because part of your schooling is to do an externship, ask. When I was at French Laundry, I would always ask Chef Keller, how do you open up a restaurant? Because one day I wanted to open one. And actually, when I told him in February that I was leaving Alan Wong's to open up a restaurant, he was a great resource for me. Because I called him and I said, you know what, I just want to let you know that I'm moving on and we're going to open up a restaurant. And he said, what do you need help with? What can I help you with? Because he's opened up per se, he's opened up Bouchon and Bouchon Bakery and ad hoc. And he's like, what do you, and I said, simply I said, I want to know what your learned lessons are. I don't believe that you fail. I think failure is kind of, sometimes people think of it as a negative word, but I tell people, when you make a mistake or you think you failed, it's not failing. It's a lesson that you learn by to move on. If you keep doing the same mistake, then you're not learning. But always take the positive of it. Because for me, every mistake I've learned or I've made, I've learned from it. And to me, I enjoyed making all those mistakes. Maybe not at that time, but the benefits after. I mean, I went to one event with, on the Big Island called Cuisines of the Sun. And it was my first event ever with chef. I was so nervous. I was in charge of a whole tent by myself, and I was only cooking 3 months at that time, and I was so nervous. I was like, oh my gosh, chef's gonna get mad at me. I'm gonna goof something up. Sure enough, I burnt the sauce. 5 minutes before the gate opened, and 1,000 people were coming in. I'm like, all of a sudden, you hear this guy next to me go, Michelle, your sauce is burning. I'm like, oh no. It took me like 5 hours to make that sauce, and I'm thinking, how am I gonna make it again? But we were able to make it happen. You see Chef and I running all the way back up to the hotel, make the sauce and come back. But you learn how to make things happen, and you learn from your mistakes. From that, I learned you never put a bain-marie directly on a burner. And after that, everyone in the kitchen knew you do not put a bain-marie on a burner. They're like, oh, if you do that, you're going to be called Michelle. So, I mean, that's how I kind of look at things that happen in life. And by surrounding yourself with those people and learning and asking questions, what I've always found is that there's a lot of great resources and people that are out there willing to help. And that's how I just always read too. And I worked with people who've moved on and opened their own restaurants, and I asked, how did you guys do it? How did you hire? How did you retain people? How do you get more people into the restaurant? Those are all things that we kind of all share, and then we share back with each other too. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, so a little bit what I wanted to discuss is I wanted to answer probably 3 of the most popular questions that people always ask me is, and maybe it's because I just got done doing an interview, is what is my creative process? Okay? And for me, honestly, or how we develop this menu, everyone has a copy of the menu in front of them? Okay. So a little bit about MW's philosophy is Wade and I do Hawaii regional cuisine. It's a tribute to all the Hawaii regional chefs. One of the first cookbooks that Chef Wong gave me, and I'll never forget, is The New Cuisine of Hawaii. He told me, read this book, understand it, and know the 13 chefs, okay? So I did, and they're incredible chefs. And part of what Wade and I do is to carry on their legacy, because what they did made such a huge impact on the state of Hawaii, for the state of Hawaii. And we just want to help live that legacy, because we don't want to see it die. We love the fact that, more farmers are here in Hawaii. We love I think Hawaii is so unique in the sense of that we have so many different cultures that on the mainland they don't really have. You have the Japanese, the Chinese, the Filipino, the Hawaiian, the Okinawan. I mean, it's amazing what we have here. And Hawaii is truly a melting pot. And so what our cuisine is that we do at our restaurant is to tap into the cultures of Hawaii, the farmers of Hawaii. When Wade and I developed this menu, basically it was farmer driven. All my desserts are farmer driven. If it's not pretty much grown in Hawaii, I don't use it. So my dessert menu will always change. A lot of the times, a farmer will come in and just drop off something at our doorstep, and Wade's like, I think that's for you. One day I had 300 pounds of bananas just dropped off at my doorstep. And I'm like, Wade, who is this from? And he's like, oh, Craig. Craig said they're free. He doesn't want it to go to waste. I'm like, what am I going to do with 300 pounds of bananas? 300 pounds of lemons? I need lemons, not bananas. But it forces you to think about what to do because you don't want to see it waste. Because they put their heart and soul in growing it, we want to give it the same integrity and respect, okay? So like, for example, we opened up with a dessert called the Mayo Lemon Meringue Brulee. It ended up being one of our most popular dishes. The lemons are from Wailea on the Big Island from Mike Crowell and Leslie Hill. They do hearts of palm, they do cinnamon, they do rambutans, they do avocados, they do soursop, and so I said, what's in season right now? She's like, I have Mayo lemon. So I said, she goes, how much do you need? And I said, I have this dessert I want to do. It's going to be tapioca on the bottom with a cantan and with lemon sorbet, a custard, and a tuile. Because usually a brulee is a custard that's burnt with sugar. For me, the best part about brulee is the top, honestly. I could care less about what's on the bottom. But I like the fact of that crisp top. And so I said, well, how do I reinterpret a brulee to make it more modern, to make it more contemporary, but still have the fundamentals of and staying true to what a brulee is. So I created this little tuile, which is a really thin cookie, and we put it on top of the cup, and we burn it. So when you crack it open, when you crack into it, you get like this frozen component that no one really knows that's in it because the custard covers the top. So when you go in, you get the creaminess of the custard, the acidity of the lemon, the textures of tapioca and cantan. So for a lot of people, it's a surprise. And that's what I do is, I like textures in my dessert. So there's a lot of different textures that people tell me. When I did the Rising Star Chefs, when I had to cook for them to see if I would win the award, he came back, he goes, one thing I noticed is you're very farmer driven and you like textures. He goes, keep at it. So I was like, okay. And so I told Leslie I need 40 pounds a week of Mayo lemons. And I figured I'll sell maybe 25 brulees a day, which is pretty good. I figured lunch and dinner service, 25 a day. When I was at Alan Wong's, my desserts percentage were about 65%, which is not bad. So every night if we did 200 covers, 65% of the people would get desserts. So that's how I was generating my numbers and generating my ordering. So that's why it's good as you gain industry experience is to recognize how you prep, because what it teaches is how to prep and how to order. So I called her up, I said 40 pounds, that's all I need a week. And she's like, okay, not a big deal. I called her up the next day, I said, I need 120 pounds. By the end of the week, I was going through 150 pounds of lemons a week. I called her after 1 month, she goes, you already went through 1,000 pounds, I have no more lemons. And I'm like, what am I gonna do? This is the most popular dish. I'm selling 60 a night. 60 little brulees. My pastry team was going crazy making all those tuiles. They're like, can you think of anything else? I was like, hey, if it makes you feel better, I made 1,000 of these by myself for Food and Wine Festival. 12 hours. So then they're like, oh. So I always tease them. I said, this is practice for Hawaii Food and Wine Festival this year. And they just laugh. But what it taught me also was that I had to be flexible. She has no more lemons. I'm not going to use mainland lemons. So she gave me oranges. So now it's become the orange creamsicle. So it's orange and lilikoi. You still get the flavors of the island, but just in a different flavor. what I learned also by opening this restaurant is that right now we do 95% dessert sales. Wade laughed at me the first day, because first day we were open, we made enough prep. Well, we thought, because I was like, okay, 65, maybe because we're open, we'll go 80% dessert sales. Halfway through service, my whole team and I are preparing for everything. We ran out of everything, and you cannot tell the guests no. And then he's like, did you not prep enough? I said, I didn't think we would sell that many desserts. So when we computed by the end of the week, we're doing 95% dessert sales. So I think the slowest night I've had was 90%. So we're doing pretty good. We get a lot of people who do come in just for desserts. Wade wants to do a cocktail hour where all the desserts are focused around cocktails. And that's because of our inspiration from our travels. So that's a little bit about what we do at the restaurant. For example, Wade's most popular dishes are like the mochi queso Karr-Ueoka and kalbi, and that's all inspirations from the cultures. What we also like is learning from our staff. Okay, how I truly get creative though is it's all about fundamentals. Okay, I cannot stress that enough. A lot of people are like, oh, I want to do molecular gastronomy. I want to do this. And I said, you know, that's good. But can you make me pâte à choux? Can you make me a good anglaise? Because if you're asking me how I get creative, that's what drives me. Escoffier, Paul Bocuse, all the great chefs. You know, and even when I went to French Laundry and I asked Chef Keller, I said, how do you create? He goes, I go back to the basics. All I do is I reinterpret it. You know, he goes, I didn't really invent anything. I'm just reinterpreting what was done before. And that's kind of what Wade and I do. He reinterprets beef stew, I reinterpret creme brulee. So a lot of it comes from, so when I get in a rut and I don't know what I really want to create, I go back to here. Or actually what helps me too is because I get a lot of students who come and work for us, or I get externs. Part of what I do and our philosophy is emphasizing the basics. So maybe I may not have cream puffs or eclairs on the menu. I make them make me a cream puff and an eclair. Just because that's how important it is for me to have them to understand the fundamentals of the basics of where you go. Because when you think about it, if you can make a cream puff, you can make anything with that cream puff. And actually that was the inspiration for one of my donuts. The MW donuts is basically the base of pâte à choux. I took the pâte à choux, I changed it up a little bit, changed the ratio, and now we get this really light, airy donut that I cannot take off the menu to save my life. I took it off one day because I just didn't, we were so busy, and I said, you know what, I want to do an inspiration of a Chinese donut. 5 people complained. They're like, no, we want yesterday's donut. And it started off with me wanting to do a different donut of the day. It's something I always wanted to do because I love donuts. So I said, Sunday will be French inspired. Monday will be Okinawan inspired, like the andagi. Tuesday will be a playoff of malasadas. Wednesday will be a playoff of the Chinese donut. And so my staff and I were creating all these different donuts, and then people complain, and they're like, well, we want this day. So Wade goes, forget the donuts of the day. Just give them what they want. But what it came down to was understanding the basics. Okay. People ask me what I read. Right now, I love to read, and that's what also inspires me and helps keep me up to date. This is probably the best magazine I have ever read. It comes out 4 times a year. It's called So Good Magazine. It's a periodical. And what they do is they feature the top chefs, pastry chefs around the world. It's an international magazine. So what they're going to touch on is they're going to touch on plated desserts, frozen desserts, cakes, and chocolates, bonbons. So they're going to hit the top people in the world. So it appeals to all different levels of pastry chefs. So this is a magazine I like. This one, The Art of French Pastry, I just got this for Christmas from a good friend. I like the quote that it says. He says, what does it take to perfect a flawless eclair? The answer is an intimate knowledge of the fundamentals of pastry and doing it 1,000 times. Everyone thinks that just because you did it once, you're ready to move on. And I tell people, you just keep practicing it and practicing and practicing, because that's the best way to get better. When I was at French Laundry, for 6 months, I Brunoise carrots, leeks, turnips, tomatoes. I mean, it was a 14-hour day, and that was my job every single day. But the incentive for me, because I would come in at 10 in the morning, I wouldn't leave till 2 or 3 in the morning. The incentive for me, though, was that the better I did it, the more efficient I got, I could do something new. And that's what amazed me. It was like, I would come to him at the beginning of the externship, I just always felt I was in the weeds, honestly. I remember doing Brunoise carrots for him, and it took me literally 3 hours to do Brunoise carrots. It was like maybe 6 deli containers this big, and it took me 3 hours. He took it, he put it on the table. He went with his hands like that. And he goes, that one's not perfect, that one's not perfect, that one's not perfect. He went, took the trash can and put it half in the trash can, half in the stock. And then he put it right out. He goes, I can't use this. I'm like, okay, where's the carrots? And now let me start again. But what it taught me was discipline. He taught me discipline, but he also taught me that you got to work efficient, and that people sometimes want to be fast. But if you don't give it to them right, doesn't matter how fast you are. Because I was thinking, if I do it fast, then I can move on to something else. But in reality, I spent twice as long doing it. Okay, and so that's kind of what it teaches me too. And then right now, there's a new book called Dim Sum. And it's funny because this book is actually from a lady named Janice Wong. She, to me, is probably one of the top pastry chefs in the world. She's from Singapore, and that's what I'm reading. So that's how we kind of create. So the reason why I'm going to touch on that is because everyone has their own creative style. And for me, this is how I get inspired. And that's one of the most popular questions I always get asked is, how do I create? Okay. What we're going to do today is kind of a play off of a technique that I learned. It's on our cheesecake. And what it's called is cooler strawberry air. And what it is working with gelatin. Okay. So on this cheesecake, how we make it a little different is we do a naked cow dairy fromage blanc cheesecake, a rare style where it's not baked. We do it with gelatin. And then we serve it with Karr-Ueoka graham crackers. The reason why, and actually who inspired this, is his name is Ed Morita. He's from Nonstop Honolulu. I ran into him one day and he gave me Karr-Ueoka cookies. And this is how people inspire each other. And I said, what made you want to do it with Karr-Ueoka? He said, Karr-Ueoka is an indigenous species, the pod. A lot of people just want the wood and they throw away the pod. And I was like, you can use the pod? I thought it was just garbage. And so he's like, no. So there's a guy who processes it into like a flour. So I said, is it flour, like all-purpose flour? And he said, no, it's kind of coarse, like almond flour or cornmeal. So then my head started thinking, okay, macaroons. What can I make with almond flour or cornmeal, and start going that way. And then so I said, well, I want a gluten-free dessert, because nowadays we have more and more people who have food allergies. So it became, to make a long story short, it became flourless, gluten-free graham crackers, and utilizing what we have in Hawaii. So that's how kind of my mind thinks. So in making this dessert, I was like, okay, I got the naked cow dairy. strawberries, because everyone loves strawberry cheesecake. We fill it with a ume jelly, and actually Wade inspired that because he makes this pickled tomato with ume that I love, and because it's acidic, so it's like eating namasu, and me being Japanese, I love anything pickled. So I loved it so much, I said, I'm going to turn this into a dessert. So I hollow out the strawberries, I make a jelly, I fill it. So when you bite into the strawberry, the jelly just pops out and it creates its own sauce. Then we macerate the other strawberries and then we do a sorbet. This air that we created was, I just wanted texture. Not to mention, when the strawberries get overripe, I can only use so much for sorbet. I don't make strawberry sauce. So I was like, what else can I put on this plate that people would be intrigued by? So we created an air. Although Wade teases me because he goes, when in doubt, I make jello with everything, jello content. So basically, for me, when I make a jelly, I use a common ratio of 3:1. Okay, and that's how I approach it. Now what this is right here, there's 4 cups of puree. And I actually got this morning because yesterday our walk-in froze, went down to 19 degrees. I never understood how many strawberries I could lose by them going down to 19 degrees. So now we have 10 gallons of strawberry puree. And Wade's like, what are you going to do? I said, don't publish the Valentine's Day menu. I'm making a change because we're using up 10 gallons of strawberry puree. Because what happened is the strawberries froze. All of our lettuces froze. So it was quite interesting walking into the restaurant this morning. So what I did is I pureed it. I added a little bit sugar. Okay. Might get a little loud in here with the mix on. So we have the strawberries. I blend it, sugar, strain it. So that's all it is. You know, I want to taste the real true essence of the strawberry. With cooler strawberries, you know how the strawberries, when you cut it, it's white in the inside, red on the outside? And that's just because when you have to ship the strawberries from the mainland, they spray it. So it turns red as it comes here on the boat, which is really sad. And it's funny because my nephew came and he had our strawberries. He goes, Auntie, I don't like your strawberries. They're not as firm as the ones I get at Safeway. And I'm like, oh, because that's not ripe. They picked it too early. And so I gave him our strawberry, and I went to the store and bought him a mainland one. I put it side by side for him. He goes, the mainland one doesn't taste the same. It doesn't taste like a strawberry. But that's what he grew up on. So now my brother wants to scream because he goes, now I have to pay $6 for strawberries. I said, but it's worth it, you're supporting local. And then he goes, okay. He's like, you're making your nephew have expensive taste. I was like, yeah, sorry. But he understands the farmers. And actually now he goes to the fish auction and the farms and he just loves it. So what we have here is I'm gonna put about a cup, 1/4 of what I actually need. And I'm gonna heat it up. Here I have 20 sheets of gelatin, okay? Basically what I did was I did a ratio of 5:1. I know that at 3:1 I'll make a soft set jelly, okay? Minus pineapple. Pineapple takes a little bit more, okay? Also you have to cook pineapple. You cannot just take pineapple juice, add gelatin, and it sets. It doesn't work. But if you cook down the pineapple, then you blend it to make a juice, you can do it. It's just going to take about four sheets of gelatin. Same with coffee, it's 4:1. But so I have 20 sheets of gelatin. I put it in a bowl. I always separate it. I don't just take these sheets and throw it in the bowl, because what happens is they're all going to stick. And where's my ice? Ice water. The reason why you want to do ice water is so that it doesn't melt and stick to each other. So what's going to happen is as the sheets, what they call is bloom, as the sheets start to bloom, it's still going to have its structure. If you put this in like warm water or cold water and you leave it there, when you pick up the gelatin, it's just going to be like one gooey mess. I've done that before too. That's another learned lesson. Probably if a mistake could happen, I probably did it. Okay. So we just leave it in there, and it takes about 5 minutes to bloom. Okay. Add a little bit more. Okay. So in case anyone wants to know why I have all this, this is what inspired a quarter of that dessert menu. So people ask me, how come I put content? I wasn't allowed to eat junk food when I was young. My parents didn't want me to have teeth problems, so they said, no candy. I had to junk in a pool with my brother at the market. If my brother and I both beat my dad at junk in a pole, then we could get candy. And it was only one candy. And both he and I had to agree on the same candy. Otherwise, we couldn't. And probably the lesson that my parents wanted to teach us at that time was working with each other and not arguing all the time, because we argued a lot. So this inspired it, sun-kissed fruit gems. I like gummy cokes. I eat that when I get stressed. Wade will tell you it drives him crazy, because I have packages of gummy cokes all over the place. My mom just cringes now. But what I like is I like the texture. So for me, the Japanese make kanten. Okay, usually it's made with agar-agar. For me, I like it, but it's a little bit, it doesn't have that chewy like a gummy bear or a gummy cola. I wanted it to have a little bit bite. So, and the French make a dessert called pâte de fruits, which is fruit paste. But it has that consistency of a gummy bear, but not really, because it's a little bit more soft. So I was thinking, how do I get the best of both worlds? So basically, I combine agar gelatin and pâte de fruits together to make the content that we have at our restaurant. But if I didn't understand how the two worked, I wouldn't have been able to create that. Okay, this Twix bar is the inspiration for this that I'm going to pass out to you guys right now. This is my version of a candy bar. Okay, so when we created the menu, Wade asked me what I wanted to do. And I said, I want a candy bar, and I want Twix. And probably because I ate a peanut butter Twix at that time, that's what we ended up creating. So this is a macadamia nut praline crunch on the bottom with a macadamia nut shortbread. So usually Twix is peanut butter. We make our own peanut butter using macadamia nuts. Okay? We do a Hawaiian salt caramel featuring the Kauai salt from Hanapepe and Wailua chocolate. The Wailua chocolate is from North Shore, and it's the David Murdoch Estate 70%. It's one of the very few chocolates grown and produced in Hawaii.
Go about discovering all your ingredients and the farms and finding everything?
Working with Chef Alan Wong, we got a lot to know a lot of different farmers. And that was one of it. Also talking and going to a lot of the different events, you meet other chefs. So that's how we got to know Chef Roy Yamaguchi. I knew Mark Noguchi from school because we went to Punahou together. But probably what helped the most, and also our current farmers that we have, is after Wade left Alan Wong's, he partnered with Mark Noguchi and did taste. And what they did is, they did taste and they did the farmer's market. Actually, farmer's market was with Shin Ho. So Wade did this to help her out, because Shin approached Wade and said, I need your help. I have a lot of great tomatoes, but just because they're bruised, they're blemished, I cannot sell them. And so she was throwing away pounds and pounds of tomatoes, or even just one little scratch. Or if it was too ripe, that's the one that blew me away. She goes, oh, they're too ripe, I can't sell it to the market, the regular markets, because they need the shelf life. So she came over and she dropped off a whole bunch of things at my mom's house and said, Wade, play with this, just to try and see what he could create. And so he gave her back, he made chutneys, he made ketchups, he made pickles, he made whatever he did. And so Shin goes, okay, do you think we could sell this at the market? So that's what they ended up doing. He established this partnership with Shin because he wanted the farmer to make money. He wanted her to make more money. And so basically he said, I'm not going to take any money for this. I'm going to help you out. So she would just give him the product. He would use it at taste, and then the rest would go to the farmer's market. And so by him going to the farmer's market and working with Shin, he actually got to know a lot of lesser known farmers. So that's how our menu got derived too. Okay? So that's our candy bar. We sell that with Kahr-Ueoka chocolate ice cream, cookies, and fudgesicles with the chocolate twirl. Okay? But I just wanted to show you a little bit about what we do there and how we create. Okay? So the reason why I chose to do the strawberry air was because I wanted to show you that you guys can do this with anything. So imagine if it wasn't strawberries. You have a lot of mango. Same thing, 4 cups mango. You want to infuse the mango with something, kaffir lime, lemongrass. Same thing. You want to do this with coconut milk. You can do it with coconut milk. When I worked with Chef, I did this. He wanted taro. I did it with taro for him. I did it with clam juice for him. That was a little hard. It was a little hard, but he liked the concept. So we did it with clam juice. So part of what I wanted to show you is that you can take one philosophy and carry it to many different things. But if you understand how it works, that's how my brain kind of thinks. Okay? So we're going to bring this. Okay, it was working. Does everyone like the candy bar? Okay, good. Ooh. Okay.
There you go.
Okay. So as this comes up to heat, I'm going to boil this. I'm going to add the sheets of gelatin. So you see how kind of it holds its shape? That's what you want. If you don't put it in ice water, it would just be like one gooey mess right now. Okay? Another reason why I also created this was Michelle Obama has a Let's Move campaign. And it's about eating healthier, teaching people how to eat healthier. And I believe in what she does. I believe strongly in what she does. And part of it was, okay, how can I create healthier desserts? Because when I worked over there, I had the opportunity to cook for her many, many times. And I always wanted to make sure that she had the option of a healthy dessert as well. Because I got tired of it when people come in and they say, oh, I'm watching my diet. I'll just have ice cream or sorbet. And I'm like, is that the best I could really give you? And part of our job as culinarians and chefs is to make people happy. So I was like, I got to be able to make people happy, whether they have an allergy, a diet restriction. I want to be able to make people happy. So that's what it started off as. Okay, so it came up to a boil. Okay, I'm going to take this gelatin, and what you want to do is you want to squeeze out the water. Okay, the reason why you want to squeeze out the water is if you have too much water in here, it's going to make the power of the gelatin less because you're adding more liquid that you didn't account for. So you don't want to just grab this and go right inside, okay? So you squeeze it out, and then you put it inside, okay? It looks like a lot of gelatin, okay? And it kind of is for this small amount of liquid. But you're going to want to mix it, okay? The reason why you want to mix it and you want to mix it well is so that it doesn't clump inside the mixer, okay? So with this concept, actually, I created a lot of different things. I keep this concept. I add coconut milk, because when people come to Hawaii, they want Mai Tais, they want lava flows, blue Hawaiis, all those cocktails on the beach. And so I was like, how can I make my own lava flow, you know? And so that's what I did. I took this concept, I added a little bit coconut milk, I threw it in a glass with some granite, some tapioca, some sorbet, and then, so basically and crushed pineapple. And the reason I chose crushed pineapple is because we have a lot of pineapple scraps after we make our cubes. And I couldn't see wasting it, and I didn't want to do pineapple sorbet. So we puree it, we strain it, and we do crushed pineapple. Because as a child, I grew up with that little dough pineapple, crushed pineapple that my mom used to use for carrot cake, and I'm like, oh, I used to like that. Or she would throw it in Jell-O or something. So I was like, I like that. So we make our own crushed pineapple that way. Because if I throw anything away, my husband will come and bring me the food scrap bin and go, excuse me, that's money down the drain. Okay, so I take this mixture, and then I pour it into the KitchenAid. Okay. You just want to scrape it all out. Okay. And then I let it go. Okay. You want to let it go on high to kind of cool it off a little bit. And then I have some ice. Okay. And you always want to make sure you find a bowl that fits under the KitchenAid and that can kind of come out, because otherwise it gets really hard. I've spilled it many times. Okay. And what you want to do is, I just pour the ice inside. That tends to happen too a lot. So if it does happen, so you don't splash everything, and you don't get dirty, you just cover it around that. Basically, I just let it go for about 10 minutes. What's going to happen is you're going to start to see the mixture get thicker and thicker. And when you think about it, if you just puree, take that 4 cups of puree, it's going to basically quadruple in size. So when you think about volume, you can get a lot more volume and yield and mass off of that little liquid. Because what you're doing is you're incorporating air. And as the gelatin sets, with the air coming in, you're increasing the volume and it's going to set. Okay? If I show you, will it show up there? So, real fast, I don't know if, can you get a picture of that? Will it pop up? So you see how it's kind of getting there a little bit? We're about maybe a quarter way there, okay? You can do this by hand if you don't have a KitchenAid, or if your KitchenAid breaks. And I will tell you, it's not fun. I broke the KitchenAid. I had to do this by hand. I sat there over ice going like this. It's worse than egg whites. 10 times worse than egg whites. And to pass our pastry class at CIA, we had to make meringue by hand. And you had to do it in less than 7 minutes. I was thinking, I wish I was at CIA right now. I'd rather do a meringue than this by hand. Okay? So basically, as this goes, I'm going to talk about another concept real fast because that takes a little while. Another concept that we do at the restaurant, because part of what they wanted when I talked with Haley what to do here, is she said, talk about something different, a new concept that has strong fundamental ties. So we have a new dessert on the menu called an affogato. Affogato is usually vanilla ice cream soaked with espresso. I wanted to do an affogato after I traveled to Europe with Chef last year. And we went to Italy. Everyone has affogato. It was amazing. And so I said, I like the soul of this dish, but how do I reinterpret it in Hawaii? Not to mention, we have great coffee in Hawaii, and I didn't have a coffee dessert. So what I did is I thought, okay, ice cream, espresso. What else do I want to do? And part of what we do on our menu is we want to show different culinary techniques. So just like on the savory side, when you develop a menu, you want roast, you want fried, you want sauteed, you want baked, you want poached, you want steamed. Because you want to show people the diversity of the experience of your kitchen and to give them that experience. So I was thinking, okay, what am I missing on my menu? So I said, oh, I'm missing something baked, something hot. And I said, okay, I'll do a chocolate cake. Everyone wanted me to do a molten chocolate cake, and I'm like, I'm not doing molten chocolate cake. I refuse to do molten chocolate cake. So I created a buttermilk chocolate cake. Everyone in Hawaii likes dobosh. So I ended up doing like a 7-layer dobosh cake. It's funny because when I told my friends about this dessert on the mainland, they're like, what's dobosh? And they're like, and I thought it was everyone knows what dobosh is. And he goes, I think it's a Hawaii thing. And I said, well, it's like pudding minus the eggs. So I created a 7-layer dobosh cake with a buttermilk chocolate cake. And we heat it up. We serve it in a pool of espresso. We top it off with coffee ice cream. And what I do is I do an aerated coffee. A lot of my desserts, for me, I like light. And maybe it's because we live in a climate that's very hot. For me, I like to feel like I ate a dessert, but I could still eat more after. I don't like the feeling of feeling really full or weighted down. So that's where I tend to go with a lot of my desserts. So, who knows how to make anglaise here? Have you made anglaise yet? Okay. So basically, that's how this dessert came to be. It's the same concept of making anglaise. And part of the inspiration was, at that time, I was reading a book by David Chang from Momofuku. And he talked about the puffed egg and how it becomes a ball. So I was like, okay, well, I don't have liquid nitrogen. I don't have all those chemicals and powders that they use. And due to our price point, some of it we cannot really use because it's just too expensive. The cost is too expensive. So I said, okay, how do I make it without using all of that stuff? I have this. All I have is a EC canister. That's all I have. So I figured, okay, because also Wade knows that I like to experiment with a lot of the chemicals. And it's really not chemicals, it's powders. Everything is derived from agar. So it's really simple, but it costs a lot. So Wade goes, no, you're staying within budget. So I said, okay, I have an EC canister. What am I going to do? So I made anglaise with coffee. Okay, so I take my cream, I steep the coffee inside the cream, and then in a separate bowl I have my egg yolks and my sugar. I temper the cream into the yolks, and then I return it to the stove and you cook it out. I chill it, okay? After I chill it, and if you want, you can do it with half cream, half milk. If you want to do it with non-fat milk, you can. I would just add 1 sheet of gelatin though, just because it doesn't have the fat content to do this, okay? So I have my aerated coffee mix, okay? So it's pretty loose, okay? It's pretty loose. It almost looks like melted ice cream almost, okay? And the beauty of this is you can do it with anything. You want to do it chocolate, lemon, vanilla, lilikoi, you can. You can even do it with coconut milk. Comes out a little different, but it comes out actually really good, okay? So I just pour it in. I pour it in to where the line says max. You don't want to fill it up too much, otherwise it explodes. I've done that many times, many times. One time I filled it up too much, and I was working the salad station at that time for Chef Wong, and I got edamame all over a guest. I won't live that one down. Okay? There's 2 types of cartridges. They have the cream cartridge. They have a cream cartridge for making like whipped cream. They have the soda cartridge for making sodas. For this application, I use the cream cartridge. I use 2. Okay? The reason why I use 2 is I want it a little bit more aerated. Okay? If you were to, for example, what I found, just because I'm very curious, sometimes good, sometimes not good, Chef used to call me Curious George, because I would always want to take it to the next level and try it out. So you basically put it inside the top, and you just insert it. Okay. And you're going to hear it hiss. Once it stops hissing, you take it off. Don't be scared if you hear a little hissing come out as you pull it out. That's natural. It won't erupt. Okay? It's also going to be very cold when you take it out. So if it's not cold, that means the gas hasn't gone into the canister. So you just got to probably tighten it up. Okay? I put a second one. Okay? Okay? And then I just leave this one on. It doesn't work with 3 cartridges. Does not work. Okay? Then I shake it. reason why you want to make sure you shake it good is so that it foams. If I just took it and I just sprayed it out, it's not going to be foamy. So if like you notice it squirts out and it doesn't have that nice like airy texture, just shake it up again. The first time I did this, I was too excited and I just squirted it out. Didn't work too well. Okay. So at the restaurant, I use demi molds, like those half sphere molds that look like a ball. And Wade actually calls this the mushroom dessert because by the time it's all plated, it looks like a mushroom. Okay? So what I'm going to just show you, because this is easier to demo, is what it looks like when it comes out. So I just take the canister and I spray it out. Okay? And this is what it's going to look like. Okay? So what happens is, huh? No. So as you see, basically I just spray it inside. Okay? So you see how it has that kind of like kind of airy, foamy feel? It almost looks like seaweed or algae. Okay. When I was young, I used to, I went to Orlando and they have, NASA has that ice cream, that dehydrated ice cream. So you know how when you have the cross section of it, or when you're young, you eat that honeycomb candy and it looks like air, but it has that light texture? I take this and I freeze it. So if you want, you can freeze this and then you guys can eat it tomorrow. And you're going to notice that it has like a light coffee airy taste to it, okay? So the beauty why I like this is because you can do it with anything, okay? You can do it with ice cream. Doesn't have to, basically anglaise is pretty much ice cream. But the reason why I want to show it to you is that you get so much volume. Because when you think about that, that's off of pretty much 3.5 cups of liquid. And I get that bigger serving size. So when you think about it, if I were to just spin this into ice cream, I could get maybe like 5 orders. Off of that, I can get 15 orders. And people are going to get that idea that they're eating a lot, but they're really not. So I can keep my desserts also to a very minimal amount of calories as well. Okay? So basically now, and depending on your mixer that you have, your volume will be different. Okay? The faster your mixer is, the more volume you're going to have. I learned that because I had this mixer at my house when I tested this recipe, and I yielded a half sheet tray. When I got to the restaurant, I did the same recipe. I yielded 2 sheet trays, and that was just because the mixer we had was faster. And I'm like, my girls were like, it's going all over the place. I'm like, oh, yeah, sorry. I didn't know it would triple. I mean, basically, it was same amount of liquid, but 2 of these bowls. So it was a lot, okay? So basically, there's 2 things that you can do with it. At the restaurant, what we do is we take this, and I take a sheet tray, and I line it with saran wrap, and we freeze it. The reason why we freeze it is because it's easier to cut. You can refrigerate it and eat it at the regular, like, refrigerated temperature, or you can eat it frozen. I like it frozen because for the cheesecake it adds a different texture. If you just serve it chilled, it's going to be like air. So you see how off of that 4 cups of liquid, you get something that's very light and airy. one day I got really bored because it reminded me of marshmallows. And maybe because I was wanting to create a s'mores. I was like, oh. So we kind of piped it. And we made these little marshmallow kisses. And then it took us a while, so it didn't make the menu. And we made little quenelles. And part of the reason why I wanted to teach them, my staff, quenelles, is I felt it was important. Because I said, you know, when we do food and wine events, or we go to events and we're helping out chefs, you want to be able to help the other chefs. And I remember the first time when I went to Cuisines and Francois Payard came and he goes, you over there. And I'm like, yes, chef? And he goes, you're going to work here. I need you to quenelle the foie gras. And I'm like, I looked at chef and he goes, he goes, Michelle, do you know how to quenelle? I'm like, not very good. So after that, I swore to myself that I would kind of practice quenelle. And I did. I came back home and I practiced quenelle. And so we do that. Some of the things I do is just to give my staff experience. So we took it. They needed help quenelling sorbets. Because what we do is we do a one-hand quenelle sometimes, and versus a two. Because with the one-hand quenelle, you're just going down, and you're going to get the natural shape of the spoon. You want to make sure you have a good spoon, too. I found out if you buy cheap spoons, it's too flat and the edges are too sharp, you get like this triangle quenelle versus a round quenelle. So it's about the spoon too. And so basically I took the bowl and I said, okay, you guys, we're all going to practice quenelle. And that's what they did. And which is fine. And because what they got good at is, because I told them, I said, if you can quenelle this, you can quenelle a meringue. Because what I do sometimes is I'll do a lemon tart with a quenelled meringue where we dry it out and we fill it with a lemon curd. So when you bite into the meringue, you get this rush of acidity and to balance out the sweetness. Okay, so you have this. You can pipe it or you can put it in a sheet tray. So basically, what you do is you just take it, and you see how it kind of just comes out? That's why you can make any shape. Okay? Okay. Then I just put that there. And then I'll just take an offset. And then I'll just flatten it. Okay? So you see how airy it is? Okay? If you want, you can throw shiso in here, like a shiso strawberry air. You know, you can throw in lemon. You can throw in grated yuzu. The possibilities are endless. And that's kind of what I would like to stress is a lot of what I'm here to show you is just more about how my thinking is. And I didn't come with recipes. If you want, you're more than welcome. I would be happy to supply you with any recipe. But a lot about what I want to show is the concept of how I think. And that's kind of what I do. You guys are more than welcome to come visit us at the restaurant anytime. Okay? Any questions about this? Okay? Yes.
When you use the gelatin strip, is there a specific reason why you use the strip rather like versus powder gelatin?
For me, okay, how do I put this? For me, gelatin sheets are a little bit more expensive. So they are a little bit more costly. I don't like anything that stinks. Wade teases me because I will walk into the restaurant and I'll be like, it stinks. And he's like, you have a nose like a dog. Probably because my eyesight is so bad, I'm almost legally blind, that my sense of smell gets accentuated. You know how they say when one goes, the other gets stronger? Well, it got stronger. So for me, powdered gelatin doesn't smell good. So that's why a lot of the time I just don't use it, because it's just, oh, I have to smell that. No, I don't want to smell it. So that's why I use the sheets. How But we do use powdered gelatin when we do terrines and those kind of things. Powdered gelatin works wonderful for terrines. Wade will sometimes use the powdered gelatin, what they call like Activa, and they have put that for like meat and fish. And just because you can get perfect roulades. But we don't say we never use it, it's just for me it's a matter of smell. Wade likes powdered gelatin because all his recipes are in teaspoons. Where he and I go crazy because I do everything by weight. He does everything by cups and teaspoons. Some of his recipes are getting converted, and that's just because I went there and I trained. So when his staff was teaching me the calamari sauce, and they're like, okay, 2 cups oyster sauce. And I'm like, 2 cups? You know how much human error can go wrong in 2 cups? And Wei goes, I told you that would happen if she started training here. But what happens is it makes your recipes easier. It makes it no fail. I shouldn't say no fail, because sometimes the scale is not calibrated. But there's less of a margin of error. Because if I took every one of you guys and told you guys to measure out 2 cups of water, each person would be different. You know, I didn't realize that until one day we did that with the kitchen staff. Because every time someone made a certain dressing, it would come out different. And so chef said, you know what? Let's try an example. So he told everyone, get a measuring cup. Measure out 1 cup of water. Everyone was different. Whereas we put on a scale, you go by ounces or grams, pretty much it's more accurate than someone eyeballing 1 cup of water. So that's why a lot of our recipes, I take it to the grams, just because in pastry, 1 gram of baking soda or baking powder makes a huge difference if it's measured wrong. You know, like if I say 5 grams of baking soda or 0.05 of an ounce, you know, people are gonna, the scale and the margin of error would be just a little bit, and the cake may not come out. And baking is a little bit more precise in the sense of those ingredients. Okay? So that is the theory of this. You can even roll it up, make it into logs like sushi, and cut and slice. What I've done too, when I did it like a sushi log, I took a dowel and I went right through it, and then I punched out a hole. So you get this foam on the outside, and then I would fill it with something. So just different concepts of shapes that you can do. Okay?
You know how you had said that you had canal meringue and you put the lemon curd inside?
Yeah.
So did you freeze it first before like canaled it and then like put a frozen lemon curd?
No, this is a dehydrated meringue.
Oh, okay.
So I did a ratio of 2 to 1 sugar. We dehydrate the meringue. With the meringue, we quenelle it.
Like a stiff peak?
Yeah, like a stiff peak. We quenelle it, and then we put it in the oven, dehydrated it, poked the chopstick inside, and then just filled it up with the curd, put it on top of the lemon tart, and then served it with fresh blueberries. Okay? So the last thing, hopefully my dry ice cooperated with me, is to just show you how we plate a little bit. Everyone has different plating techniques. When I first started in this industry, it was very tight. It was circle within a circle within a circle. Okay? As times have gone on, it became different. In school, I was taught 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 9 o'clock, where it was like protein, fish, veg. Now they say, like when I was reading, because I keep up to date because I get a lot of externs from CIA, I like to know what they're studying because I have to adjust accordingly as well, because I want to make sure that they're learning the same things. As I was telling Wade, I want to make sure that their externship is a valuable learning experience. And probably CIA explained it to me best. Because I asked one of the deans one day, I said, why do we have to pay to go on extern? I said, I'm working for free, and I still have to pay the school money to go on externship when I'm not going to be here. And she said, no, it's to pay for administrative costs, which is fine. But then she also told me when we got approved as a site, she said, I want to make sure, because our students pay to go on their externship, I want to make sure that you represent what a qualified teacher at CIA is. Because if you are just going to think of them as free labor or cheap labor, then you don't match up with the qualities of what we believe in education at CIA is. So that's why we feel it's important that the externship provides this experience. So for those of you that if you do come and experience our externship here, I do give homework. Just to let you guys know. Some people, like sometimes people are like, she gave me homework? I give homework. You have to come with 5 questions every single day. I will answer those 5 questions, okay? On the basis that you do your homework the night before, okay? Because I feel it's a give and take relationship. You know, I don't only want to answer your questions, but when I give you homework, you never turn it in. And part of it is to keep you on the ball, to keep you learning. Because when you think about it, if you learn one new thing a day, every day, that's 365 new things that you learn a year. And part of this stems off because when I was with Chef Keller, he came to me and he gave me, and I would say, I want homework. He's like, you're going to work 16 hours a day and you still want homework? I said, yes. So he and his sous chefs got together with me and they gave me 5 words a day. Because they knew I didn't know escoffier cooking that strong, that's what they did. They gave me escoffier terms. And I would come back every day and I would say, these are the 5 terms that you gave me, and we would discuss it. And we would discuss how you would implement it at the restaurant. But it was a lot of work, and honestly, it's funny because when I was there, the only place you could go, honestly, was the library. Now I wish I could do it now, because all you do is you put in the computer. But it was a lot more research then. But that's what I feel, you know, when you learn externships about, you know. So like I have a girl now. We made pâte à choux because she wanted to. I wanted her to understand eclairs and piping skills. We don't do a lot of piping, you know, and when we do piping, it's for macaroons and those kind of things. And so I said, I want you to practice your piping skills. So she made eclairs. We did a dulce de leche eclair, gave it for employee meal. But for me, it was about the experience of her making the right pâte à choux, knowing how to cook it, knowing how to bake it, and seeing what you could do with it after and how you would sell it. And at the same time, she learned cost. Because I said, we're going to learn what the cost is, so it's a more valuable experience for her. Okay? So that's kind of what we do there. So if I give homework, sorry. Okay? So one of the desserts we have at the restaurant is a coconut cake. Okay? And what it is my dad's favorite dessert is halpia cake. And he would tell me, do not give me a fancy cake. I just want plain and simple halpia cake. But at the same time, he knows I won't do it, except for his birthday. So that's the one time a year he gets classic halpia cake. And so he said, well, it started off with, I told him I would put one dessert on the menu for him. It was first apple pie. Apple pie wasn't very local for me, so I took it off. Although I was selling a lot of apple pie ice cream, it wasn't me. So I said, I'm going to make you a coconut cake. So what it came to be was, what's in a coconut cake, first of all? Okay, coconut. What kind of cake is it usually? Chiffon? Okay, what's the best part of the coconut cake that people like? The filling, right? Which is halpia. Hawaiian generated, okay? So that's how I think. I deconstruct what the classic dessert is. Of course, my dad, unlike you guys say how pia filling is your favorite part, just like the majority of everyone. My dad's favorite is the coconut, the little flakes of coconut with the whipped cream. I'm like, I can just give you that, you know, Dad. But that's his favorite part, okay? So we have that. Okay, I do a lily koi chiffon, okay? The reason why I do a lily koi chiffon with this dessert is because we do a pie of the day, where every day is a different pie. My hopes was one day, in case of anyone, I love nostalgic desserts, first of all. So ice cream sandwich, pies, all those simple things, that's what I like. So I told Wade, I said, okay, lunch is going to be a pie of the day. And I had these grand dreams of creating different pies every day. Then I found out how many pies we sell, and that my team only has 2 hours of production time before we hit lunch. So to produce 40 small little pies wasn't cutting it. And so, plus we only get $9 a small little dessert. So labor-wise, it wasn't happening. So I found these cute little jars, like what you put a preserve in. And I took those jars, and basically every day we do a deconstructed pie. So like yesterday's was chocolate banana cream. I put dough wash on the bottom, graham crackers for texture. Sometimes if we have to make brownies for guests, I'll put brownies. Then we put kinako banana ice cream, because I like kinako because it reminds me of peanut butter. It reminds me of New Year's Eve. It's the soybean powder that you put on mochi. And then we put whipped cream, and to get the pie crust is pâte brisée. We just take pâte brisée, we make it into one big block, and they grate it on a microplane. And then we bake it, so it kind of comes out like a nice streusel, but more fine. It almost looks like cheddar cheese, honestly, when it comes off of the thing. And that's how we do our pies. Basically, we found it was a lot faster than making tart shells. And my whole vision was, if I wanted to do a pie book, I would have 365 recipes after 1 year. Didn't work though. But we try, and part of it is because of demand. Every day somebody asks for chocolate banana cream pie. I sell 40 banana cream pies a day between lunch and dinner. So it hasn't come off the menu. So that's why the joke between the servers and I is, what's the pie of the day? I'm like, chocolate banana cream. And then so one day I said, okay, lily koi chiffon today. And they're like, lily koi chiffon? I said, that's my tribute to Kauai, because I guess Kauai is known for lily koi chiffon. So that was how we switched it up one day. So basically, people always asked us about lily koi chiffon. Okay? So when you think about lily koi, coconut, pineapple, it's all very light, refreshing. And I needed a coconut pineapple dessert, because our pineapple farmer, Craig Bowden from Hawaii Crown, makes the best pineapples. And he asked me, he goes, you don't have a pineapple dessert on your menu yet. And I was like, I'm getting there. And he's like, and I knew we developed a good relationship because I created the pineapple shave ice. And we would go through so many pineapples. And so when I came to an open MW, he's like, where's my pineapple dessert? So I said, okay, I'll get one on the menu. So that's how it also came to be. Not to mention I had to do a photo shoot for Modern Luxury. So they said, we want a picture dessert. We want it light, we want it artistic, and we want it to showcase Hawaii. So we did it, and we kind of kept it on the menu. A lot of people use tweezers nowadays. Honestly, sometimes my friend laughs at me, because I will sometimes. Otherwise, I use chopsticks. Because we grew up eating with chopsticks. So my friend from the East Coast came for the Hawaii Food and Wine Festival, and I was teasing him because we've known each other for so long, and he uses tweezers for everything. And I said, oh. He goes, Michelle, where's your tweezers? I'm like, we have chopsticks. And I was like, here, here's my tweezers. And he said, and he goes, you guys use chopsticks? I said, well, it's either chopsticks or tweezers, depends. Or honestly, for me, an offset, mini offset spatula works wonders. And so he and I tease each other because I said, it's just because you don't know how to use chopsticks. So this is $15. Chopsticks are a lot cheaper. Not to mention, they're in the restaurant all the time. And so people always ask me about that, if they should have tweezers. If you do, great. If not, no worries. Okay? So we put a little bit of the pineapple on the plate. And how this came to be is because it's funny because when my mom ate this dessert, she's like, wow, it looks like it's a lot of food. But when you think about it, it's really not that much food because this is what we have. A couple content, a coconut pudding, 5 small pieces of cake, and a lot of more chiffon than I'll actually use, okay? And a bit lime zest. So when you think about it, if I were to just give you this, you think, oh, kind of small dessert. But it's how you plate it that will make the diner feel visually appealing, okay? So we just put the pineapple on the plate. Okay. The coconut pudding that I do is basically haupia. So which is basically cornstarch, coconut milk, and sugar. I like kaffir lime a lot, maybe too much. And it probably is because I had an obsession with jasmine rice with kaffir and lemongrass. That's my favorite thing to eat. And basically I ended up making a sorbet with it because we had so much leftovers. So Wade's like, I can't use them. I'm like, let's make a sorbet. And then he kind of laughed at me, but it ended up being pretty good, and we served it for a little while. So I steeped the coconut milk with kaffir, and I just thicken it, okay? And then we just put that on the plate, okay? The reason why I just put a little bit is so when you get the chiffon, which basically were either cube, sometimes I would just go real rustic, and I would just break it apart. So it kind of looks like little rocks, like if you were to eat at home and you tear a romaine lettuce and put it on a salad. Very rustic. Okay. So we just put a little piece of cake. So you see how slowly that's getting a little bit more, it looks a lot more, it looks like a lot more food than what was actually in the little deli container, okay? Then we take the lilikoi content, which I sometimes use for the brulee. So on the sides, we have all these scrap pieces. You can't use it inside the brulee. I don't want to waste it. And you can't really melt it down and make it solid again. So I'll just take that. Last week, I had beautiful longans from the Big Island. I threw that on the plate. This week, I don't have longans, so you might not see it on the plate. And it's about utilizing what we have. If I had mango, I would probably put mango on this plate instead of the content. If we had dragon fruit. So you work with the seasons of what you have, okay? So we just put a couple pieces of content. So you see the different textures that we have here. We have a jelly, we have a soft, we have light, and we have sponge, okay? And we have the pineapple. For me, because Craig has such beautiful pineapple, I want to highlight the sweetness of his pineapple in the best possible way. If it wasn't that sweet, I would probably put it in a cryovac bag, compress it. One, it intensifies the color, as well as it intensifies the sweetness. I do that a lot with fruits if they're not at the peak quality. Works well with watermelon. You would take a really light pink watermelon and make it really red, okay? So we put that on the plate. And then usually then we'll put a little bit, I would either put like coconut or crushed pineapple in that place. Okay, so what I have here, someone got melted, sorry, is Halpia sorbet, which we make a cafe lime Halpia sorbet. Just because I wanted to have that light effect. So you know that same concept that we did with the coffee? I do it coconut. Okay. So I just take quarter sheet hotel pans, quarter pans, and we just spray it in there. Okay. So what happens then is with a fork, ooh, somewhat melted, but it's not as frozen as I would like, but you can see the cross section of it. Okay. So you see the cross section of it? That's what I'm looking for. Okay. You see how it has those air pockets? Okay. That's what I look for. Okay. Okay. And actually, we just did this dessert, one for Modern Luxury, and then we had a dinner the other night, the other week with Corey Chow. He used to work with us at Alan Wong's. He went off to become the sous chef at Per Se. So next year, he's going to be opening his own restaurant. So we asked him if he would do a guest chef dinner with us. He agreed. So we did it, and this is the dessert that I actually did. And then we put the sorbet. And then what I do is I take this, and then we just kind of chunk it up, and then I'll interspace it throughout. Okay. Okay. And then, for me, coconut, lime, it's a perfect marriage. And also, lime has nice acidity, so it makes things lighter. I'll just kind of go around the plate, and I'll put some lime on top. I always told Wade, I said, I'm going to buy stock in microplane for how much microplanes we use at the restaurant, because we started off with 30 microplanes and we have 6 now because he grates his mochi on this. I said, between my old pineapple shave ice and you, we should have got a deal with microplane to buy it a lot cheaper. Okay, then we take the coconut. And the coconut, I like to use fresh coconut, just because it gives you like that taste of Hawaii, like you're back home, gives you a feeling for the land. And we'll just grate some of the coconut on top. If I have a lot of coconut, then we'll just slice it, and then we'll just put it on the plate as well. For the dinner that night, I called it Coconut 5 Ways, because we had like the coconut snow, the coconut sorbet, the coconut pudding, and then we did chunks of halpia. And then we just put a little bit lilikoi sauce. And then we have someone who grows micro lemongrass. I'm sorry, I couldn't bring it today because that's Wade's garnish in front of his station. He grows his dim sum baskets with all micro herbs. So I use lemongrass a lot. It's about this big, it's micro, and when I need, I just go, I snip it off, I put it on the plate, and then out it goes. But Wade's like, you can't take the lemongrass. What am I going to use? Because he has lemongrass, shiso, ruby streaks, arugula. He has it all lined up. So that's how we get a lot of our greens. It adds decor to the restaurant, as well as we're using and promoting the local farmers. Then we have Ed Lima, who makes us all micro flowers. So we'll just take it, and then we'll kind of just put it on top of the plate. Sorry. Some of them, actually a lot of them, they got frozen, so they're not very pretty right now. So that's the one bad thing if your walk-in freezers, everything that's perishable like lettuce, it melts. And this is what happens if your walk-in freezers. Sorry, they're usually pretty flowers, but we had a little issue, but sorry. And so we like to use a lot of this. He has Johnny jump ups, he has marigold flowers, he does a lot of ornamental microgreens. We like to also promote him because he just started about 3 years ago. Okay, so that's one dessert. The other dessert is the affogato. Okay, so I have some desserts that, as Wade will say, is 15 to 20 steps. So because lunch people like to be in and out within 45 minutes, I cannot do many desserts like that. Otherwise, my pastry team will get very upset with me. And so the next dessert I did to compromise is 4 steps. And they like this dessert. I like this dessert because when you have a lot of tickets, you're like, yes, 4 steps. No stress. And so basically, this is the affogato, very simply. So I make a coffee espresso sauce. We just put it on the bottom of the plate. So the reason why I also chose this dessert to just show you was that there are different styles that I have. Some will be very more Picasso-ish, I guess, all over the place. Some will be tight. Okay. And then, sorry. Then we have the cake. So we just take this cake. We usually heat it up, and then we'll put it on the plate. So what's going to happen is here you get the sauce on the bottom, which acts as a sauce for the cake as well. You're going to get different textures. You're going to get hot, cold, all on the same plate. Okay? Then you're going to get the coffee ice cream. The coffee that I like to use for this dessert is a Kailua coffee. The reason why I like to use the Kailua coffee is I use Kailua chocolate in the dessert. It's the same farmer, Mike Conway, so he actually started off in coffee production first. Then he started to do chocolate. And he wanted to showcase Hawaii a little bit more, so he did that. Then these are the molds. So you see how it kind of looks like a marshmallow? I mean a mushroom. It's a demi-dome top. So we'll just basically put it on the side. And then we'll take the twirl. And this is a bigger version. Sometimes I'll put it where I'll just, depending on our mood, where take the cake and we'll go 4 slices around. And we'll sink the ice cream inside, and then the top really looks like a marshmallow top, mushroom top. Changed it a little bit just because Wade teased me the whole lunch period that it looked like a mushroom. He goes, too bad it wasn't Christmas. And I was like, he goes, then you have your Yule log. And I'm like, okay, yes, it does look like a mushroom. So we just kind of adapted it a little bit for that, okay? So you see how that dessert takes 30 seconds to plate. The other dessert takes sometimes 3 to 5 minutes. You know, a lot of times we'll preset those plates, maybe about 15 of them in the walk-in, pull it out while we're just finishing it. And it's just about keeping up to pace because we only run a one-person pastry line. So I'll usually do production, and then I'll have one girl work service. At night we do one person work service, and I'll jump in when need be, which is usually we are, because we have 11 to 13 desserts at night. But to keep the labor cost in line, we have to run that way, which I'm actually fortunate because at first Wade told me I could only have one pastry cook. He got lenient and gave me 3. But he hired 6. So I was like, you hired 6? He goes, yeah, but I took half of them. I'm like, yeah, I know. Okay, any other questions? So that's a little bit on plating technique.
How often, because I know you change certain menu items because of their seasonality or because of what's available, but how often does your lunch and dinner and dessert menus ever completely change?
The lunch menu is almost the same. It's half the size, okay? Just logistically why we do 6 desserts at lunch versus 11 to 13 at night is lunchtime. What we've learned is everyone comes at 11:30, needs to be out by 12:30. It is the fastest 120, 130 people I have ever served. And we couldn't, it's not practical to do that many desserts at lunchtime. Not to mention, we have a lot of business diners, so they really don't eat dessert. So for me, I picked the 6 lightest desserts and put it on the dessert menu at lunch. Pretty much Wade would do a specials menu every day. Now that we're out of the holiday season, his specials menu is getting longer and longer. So, and we have a lot more farmers. So now that we have more farmers coming and giving us a lot of different things to try, he's doing that. A lot of it too is what we listen to our guests, you know, because they're like, oh, we would love to see this. So he'd be like, okay, I'll make it, and we see how it sells. So it pretty much what he has now on that menu, those are have turned into signature items for him, as he's noticed. So for pastry, it's a little bit different. Like when it's mango season, honestly, I'll put mango all over that menu. I'm not going to put mango now. I don't feel I would do the mango justice, unless if it was a pickled mango. But then me and my mango farmers, I am like, I need mango. She's like, you take green mango now, you're not going to have ripe mango. And I'm like, okay, I'll take the common mango. So we'll make pickled mango, because common mango is the best for pickled mango. I don't want to waste Hayden and puree mangoes to make pickled mango, because I would rather eat them ripe and fresh. Okay.
When you say you fall back on your fundamentals and techniques, do you have a certain set or like a book that you constantly kind of reference? I mean, since you have a lot of resources and you have so much industry
This one.
knowledge, do you always kind of go back to your CIA book when you want to kind of ground yourself again and kind of think of a new recipe?
For me, this is kind of like my escoffier. Because it teaches you, it gives you a lot of the fundamentals of it. That one, Jackie Pfeiffer's book, any book that has a lot of the pure fundamentals of baking. You know, like when I first started getting into wedding cakes, people would give me like all these, you know, Colette Peters and all these books, and they're great. They're great, but doesn't teach you how to make sugar flowers from scratch. Shows you the final product, but doesn't teach you, oh, this is how I make the gum paste flowers. So for me, that's what I like to go back to. Sometimes it's just me going and looking at the book and going, ooh, puff pastry. oh, I feel like eating palm leaves. Oh, let's make a dessert with palm leaves. Like the other day, I ate this dessert, this actually pastry from Bee Patisserie. And one of our friends brought it back from San Francisco. And it was incredible. And it's basically a croissant dough laminated. And I was just like, wow, I really like this. And then so she's like, oh gosh, what are you gonna make? And I'm like, and Wade's like, what are you doing with all these things of butter? I had these butter blocks. I'm like, I'm gonna make croissants. He's like, we're not open for breakfast. We're not doing breakfast right now. I'm like, no, I'm gonna make laminated croissants so I can make a play off of pineapple upside down cake, you know, or a pineapple tart tatin. So that's how I use the fundamentals. And sometimes it's because I haven't done it in a long time. Like, if I'm like before, when I used to have an extern and they needed to make like a gâteau Saint Honoré, which I make, every one of my externs make. I was like, oh, I haven't made that in a long time. Or when I eat, I'm like, oh, I really like that. And then it'll be incorporated into something. But a lot of it is, when you think about it, anglaise is an anglaise. But how many things can you do with that anglaise? You know, your possibilities are endless. But if you don't know how to make a custard, how can you be creative with it if you don't know how to make it? You know, so that's, I call it cooking with 2 feet on the ground. Understand your fundamentals. Someone once compared it to me as like when you build a house. If your foundation under the ground isn't strong enough, it cannot support the top. So you can be all the creative you want, but if you don't have a strong foundation in the fundamentals of food, you cannot be as creative. Otherwise, what happens is it just all comes crashing down. Like I had one girl who came to me, she goes, I'm gonna open up my own wedding cake shop. And I said, good. She goes, that's all I wanna do, just wedding cakes. I said, great. And so she would draw me these beautiful cakes. She would make me little flowers. And I said, do you know how to make cake? She goes, no, I don't need to know how to make cake. I'm like, who's gonna buy cake from you if you don't know how to make cake? And she's like, I'll just hire someone to make the cake for me. That's not the fun part. I said, well, what happens if you have a wedding cake that you have to make for someone's wedding and that person calls in sick? Who's gonna make the cake? And then she dawned on her, she's like, oh yeah, I better learn how to make cake. I said, what? Because honestly, I said, the cake is what tastes good. That's what everyone's gonna eat. You gotta make sure your cake tastes good as well as it looks good. Otherwise, if it looks good but doesn't taste good, no one's gonna come back. Because ultimately, it's all about the taste.
I want to thank Michelle so much, and I know you probably have some other questions, so feel free to come up afterwards and ask questions. I would like to get some photos with her, but I hope you're inspired by this creative thought process and motivated to go out and do some research, do some reading, get into some resources, and ask questions, because that's really what she does beautifully, and you can see it in what she's given us today. She's given us a whole lot of information. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I forgot the cookies. Sorry. I forgot one thing. You can come and help yourselves after. When I opened this restaurant with Wade, my grandma unfortunately passed away, and she is the reason why I got into cooking. So I wanted her to still be part of the restaurant. So I took one of her recipes, and that's actually what we implemented at the restaurant a little bit. And I call it my grandma's chocolate chunk cookies. Actually, the only difference is my grandma liked raisins. I don't like raisins in cookies. And I like chocolate. So what this is she did an oatmeal raisin cookie. So I just adapted the recipe, and we do chocolate chip with fettuccine, which replaces her cornflakes, macadamia nuts, and it was a tribute to my grandma, and it's a way for her to live in this restaurant as well. And that's part of what we do at the restaurant, is learning from our heritage and sharing it with others. So that was one of the things. So help yourself to a cookie and enjoy.